Welcome to This Week in Coworking, where industry leaders get succinct, actionable insights.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to This Week in Coworking podcast feed. I am your host, Hector Kolonas, and this is week 45. This week we have an amazing guest co-host, Alex Garza from Alliance Virtual Offices, and we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, what they're up to with their on-demand side of their business, what franchise won awards or went up in the rankings, some data coming out of Europe, how to boost app engagement, and a little bit more. But before we get into that, Alex, how are you?
Hi, Hector. Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
Welcome. Great to have you here. Great to take some of the conversations we've had offline and bring it in front of people and just share a little bit about why I love geeking out with you. Alex, you are the co-host this week, Alliance Virtual Officer, also the sponsor of our newsletter, LinkedIn Recap, and podcast this week, which means we get to tell some exciting news from Alliance. This week, you shared a video and a bit more information around how your kind of meeting room evolution has changed and how you're leaning very, very heavily into technology. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you shared this week?
Sure. So it was a video that we filmed at GWA, where we talked with you, with Anne, also from the shop as well. We're building up something really, really interesting, which is instant bookings. So previously, we used to make bookings for clients through partners, in which we would call our partner or email them to ask if there was availability, right? So this would take about 5 emails and around 7 to 10 hours for each booking. This wasn't sustainable, right? This isn't fun for the clients. It isn't fun for us. So we came up with you about the integrations, right? To integrating the system that each partner has. It might be Office R&D, Nexidus, Jardy, many more that are out there. So we integrate via Syncer to our Alliance account. That way, our clients are able to see live availability. And they can do instant bookings in a click, real quick. So it's something that we're really excited about. We have started to see actually the benefits of it. Our clients are already preferring way more instant bookings. We have about 10% of our client base, of our partners, are integrated already with live bookings, but about 20% of our bookings are already instant. So we can see that already working out.
That's awesome. It was great to kind of share a little bit more about that. I mean, a lot of folks, they think of Alliance Virtual Offices as a way to get virtual office customers, right? It wasn't the biggest part of your business that you were filling meeting rooms as well. Is that a fairly new addition to Alliance, or have you been doing meeting room bookings for a very long time?
We have been doing meeting rooms for a very long time, actually, but our core business has always been virtual offices. We have seen that clients are needing more. Whenever they have a virtual office with us, they might want to have 1 or 2 meeting rooms a month. With some of their clients, we saw the need for this, and we have also seen the need to make it quicker. So that's where our focus is now going to.
It makes a lot of sense. You have a whole bunch of virtual office customers who utilize you guys for their registered address, for their virtual offices, for their mail handling, all of that stuff. It makes sense that they would want to pop in somewhere as well. And if it wasn't through you, it would be through someone else. And the fact that you've been doing it for a long time just makes me think that maybe it just wasn't scalable enough, right? Given that you had to do 5 emails per booking, chase people, interrupt the operator in the middle of their day, try and confirm. Even after you've confirmed, if someone then books it after that 5th email, what happens then? We're getting to a point now where that is all kind of working seamlessly and more efficiently for everyone, or for most people. We're getting to a point now where how do we make the operating teams more efficient? How do we make their days more enjoyable? How do we avoid them having to do repetitive processes? And then how do we get them to make the businesses more money, right? That's the objective at the end of the day. Make more money, but also build better connections with the humans in the space that you can't do if you're stuck responding to emails or calling or trying to confirm that meeting room booking. So it's just a very good evolution, and I'm glad that we get to go on that journey with you. As you said, we've rolled out a few integrations so far. We have some fantastic customers in there, like Anne, who was in the video as well, really sharing how it does kind of feel like magic. And we're glad that we get to make magic with you. So appreciate you choosing us to be your partner in that.
Yeah, of course. And basically, what you were talking about, it's also from the operator's perspective, right? The time that they're not going to be anymore responding to emails about availability will make your lives way easier.
Of course, it makes every booking more profitable if you think about it on the amount of hours spent. So we're going to dive a little bit into the newsletter this week. We had a bit of a pre-show chat about what caught our attention. If you're following along or you're listening to this for the first time, welcome to the podcast. Go over to thisweekincoworking.com and click on week 45 to get more information around all the topics that we're about to discuss, but also to find out a little bit more and watch that video that Alex was talking about. So the first story I want to start with is a bit of a celebration. We saw 3 brands within the vast co-working group move up on the Franchise Times top list. To see 3 co-working brands grow in that list is a good signal, I believe, for the whole industry. It means that co-working franchising is becoming more successful. There is more demand, but there's also more people looking to enter the industry through this new channel as opposed to kind of creating a small space. What were your thoughts around this franchising side? I know that you work a bunch with some of the vast spaces.
Yeah, from Alliance perspective, I can see this. We're fortunate to have about 70% of their franchise locations in our network. And honestly, I have seen firsthand their customer first approach in action. And several of their locations consistently rank on our top 100 centers in all the network. I think that what really Bast has created there is that they know how to scale while maintaining the quality. So we know that every franchise that we get into our network is going to give a great customer support and customer service to our mutual clients.
It's also a topic that we keep seeing again and again here at the newsletter. We've seen growth in franchising, we've seen new franchising enter, we've seen the Coven grow. We're seeing this idea of scaling through frameworks, and that's what franchising is, right? If you are new to that topic, go back in the podcast feed, wherever you're watching this, look at the fundamentals of franchising that we did with Jason Anderson from United Franchising Group and Vast Co-working. If you want to hear a little bit more about how you can have a multi-brand franchising strategy, go listen to the last episode we just released with Bryce Hill, where he talks about the Ahana network, how they've merged kind of Venture X's and Office Evolutions into a cohesive multi-brand offering. So definitely go listen to that. On the topic of Venture X and the Vast Group, we actually had another link we shared this week from a community associate over in London, Olivia Lutz, who shared how in 6 months she managed to drive app engagement up by 700%. Like, that is a huge percentage, and in only 6 months she shares a little bit about how she does that. But it's one topic that I keep hearing about again and again from all these operators. We have this software, we have this community portal, we have this app, but nobody uses it. So seeing someone share how they manage to drive engagement is valuable. I know that at Alliance, you guys are rolling out your own app tied to what we've been discussing around your on-demand bookings. What would be your pro tips for making an app more useful than a nice to have?
Well, I think that this app, our own app, and any other app needs to have a value, right? If it's something that you needed and it just adds an extra step, it will never have the same engagement as one that has. On our case, making it really easy for someone to book, just getting out their cell phone and clicking instant booking instead of getting to a web page, searching for a location, etc. You can see the value there. I think that and communicating the value that it gives to the clients, because you might have a great app as well, but people don't know how to use it. You also need that. So I think it's having both.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. And Olivia does highlight the fact that she made it kind of mandatory to use to book, right? You can't go into a meeting room. You need to use the booking system. It was part of the onboarding. It was part of that training. It's part of the first thing a member touches. And it is that juggle, right? You don't want to keep throwing an app in people's face that's hard to use, but you also want to make sure that the app works. And it's not just,
Yep.
these are the 6 apps. Here's the app you need for door access. Here's the app you need for messaging. Here's the app for mail. Here's the app for all of these things. I think that all goes back to what we were saying, at the top of this episode. Like bringing everything to one place, to one database, to one application is what's going to improve not only the operator experience, but also that end experience for their members. If they're only using one thing to book their meeting rooms, to access, to know that when they book a meeting room, they're not going to walk in and there's an outsider, someone who booked the meeting from outside the space, sitting in the meeting room, right? It should be the same calendar, it should be the same resource information that all parties share. And that's what creates a really sticky app experience, because you can rely on it, right? The app needs to feel reliable, needs to feel that it can deliver on its promise, on its value proposition. And that is, I think, what I would summarize from what you said.
And I think also, so we're developing the new center portal. In the next 2 weeks, it's going to go out. And in this webpage, the centers on our network are going to be able to notify the clients to make changes to the centers, to see their bookings, and to accept or decline clients. So we're trying to do the same thing there, just one app instead of having 4 different, have one center hub for the centers. And at the end of the day, about making life easier to the user.
Well said. And I'm sure we're going to have you back on the podcast in the near future where that is all embedded back into the inventory system. And there's even one less app. We'll have you back on to talk about that. We can stay in the UK actually. We saw some data coming out of Coworking Cafe. This is their latest quarterly release. Every quarter, Coworking Cafe aggregates the data in their systems and shared that there are now 4,315 co-working locations across UK and Ireland. That's up 116 locations from the last quarterly number they shared, which is good to see that kind of upwards momentum. They also shared, how it breaks down and how obviously London is the center hub of the UK, one of the most competitive co-working markets on the planet, so no surprise there. But we also see some growth across Manchester, Glasgow, Birmingham, Cardiff, Belfast, and Dublin, all getting past or going up to that 100 location point, which is just great numbers to see. They also did share average pricing, taking into account that prices are not coming down. There is just a regional difference in pricing. A desk in Manchester or a virtual office in Manchester is a different price to a virtual office or a desk in London. Zone 1 is a different price to Zone 6. Before I move on to the next topic, does Alliance Virtual Office work in the UK and Ireland at this point? Are you servicing that market?
Yeah, we actually have around 40 locations in the UK. Our core market right now is the US, but you never know.
That's fascinating. And is those 40-ish locations, are they all kind of CBD, good postcode areas, mainly focused on the virtual office business?
Yes, mainly on the virtual office and as well in meeting rooms. Yep.
Are you guys operating anywhere else right now?
Yes, actually, we operate in a couple of different countries. We also have in Canada, Mexico, Dubai, for example. We have Netherlands, Panama, Portugal, Peru. We have a lot of different countries that are at the Alliance network. Although where we do get the most clients are in the US market, because that's where our most marketing money goes to.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And you guys are also playing up and experimenting a lot with your outreach. I remember a couple of months ago we shared that you guys did a kind of micro-influencer campaign, really just getting people on TikTok, Reels, etc., to talk about the fact that, hey, I'm a freelancer and I use a virtual office and this is why. Really driving that new subset of demand. So it makes a lot of sense. And I love the fact you guys are experimenting with new ways to do that. I think we actually had one of your colleagues on stage with me when we talked about the different ways that aggregators were bringing new people into the market as opposed to competing for AdWords.
And talking about that, it's very good that you're talking about it. We do Google Ads, Google SEO, getting the demand from clients already looking for virtual offices. But it's very important that we're expanding the demand. just how you said, influencers, social marketing, content marketing. We have also the enterprise clients and the alliance network. We have a lot of clients that refer their friend and their family to us. So we're trying to expand and not just get the demand that's already in the marketplace.
Growing the pie as opposed to trying to take more of what exists. I have a last topic, and we're kind of iffy as to whether we would dig into this. I am very eager to talk about this all day, every day, because we are doing an undercurrents on the topic. We are digging into how it works, why it works, and whatnot. But the news that we had a newsletter this week is the team over at WOTSO across Australia and New Zealand have started implementing a form of dynamic pricing around their meeting rooms. The way that they've set this up is the days that there is less demand, the prices are cheaper. The days where there is more demand, the prices are more expensive, with the hope, I would assume, that they shift demand so it evens out across the time and they make more revenue per square foot per hour, as opposed to what they would only selling the space that was in high demand. It's a very interesting topic. I'm going to dive more into the various different types of dynamic pricing, when it works, when it doesn't, where they've seen upsides, where they've seen downsides, where it causes frustration, where it doesn't, where it causes confusion, where it doesn't. But my question to you, Alex, as someone who is in the job of essentially filling meeting rooms, what are your thoughts around constantly changing pricing? How's it going to affect the booking experience for your end users?
I think that for the end users can be frustrating or it can be a good thing, right? I imagine they booked a $30 meeting room, but they go next week, they try to book and now it's $40. I think that's very frustrating, right? But they might go in and now it's 25, it's a good thing. I think it can affect a lot the service that you're trying to give. If they might be able to find a solution where if it's a recurring client, they can stay the same price. And if it's the first client, maybe that can work around. But it would be frustrating for me if I try to book a second time and it's a different price.
Yep.
Honestly, that's my own opinion. That's not Alliance opinion, but that's my opinion.
Of course. I mean, the great thing is we have you on the podcast. We don't have Alliance on the
Yeah.
podcast. So this is all, I'm going to throw a disclaimer in here. This is all for entertainment and education purposes. None of this reflects the companies that we work for. Do not take this as investment advice. That is not included. I'm very, very torn on it because I'm doing such a deep dive into the topic. I can see where it helps. I can see where it benefits. I can see where it improves retention. But I can also see it very quickly becoming commoditized. If it's all about the price at the end of the day, and not building everything into a subscription, not building a recurring traffic, it's a very slippery slope. But it only matters if you've got enough demand, right?
Yep.
If you're in a region where there is not enough demand, that doesn't matter. The investment or even the time to think about whether you should be doing this is moot, right? It doesn't make sense to have really cheap prices on Monday if then everyone who's on your Wednesday that is full moves to your Monday.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
And I'll say something. I know sometimes there are some square footage limitations, but if you're having full meeting room, take out one private office, make a new one, because it's between 5 to 10 times more revenue to you than a regular leasing. So if you having that issue, instead of creating this dynamic pricing, I would just create a new meeting room.
That is a very good observation. And it reminds me of another story in this week's newsletter where one of the teams at one of the spaces, they basically squatted in an empty office. No one was using it. They put their team in there. They faded it out a little bit and they really loved it. The team was bonding. They were doing the most productive work. And then it was so buzzy that someone was on a tour and they're like, well, I want this office. And they were in that conundrum of, do you give up your team space or do you fill your office, which is your business? It's your job to fill that space. And it comes down to the meeting rooms as well. It's easier to sell an office on a one-year contract than it is to turn it into a meeting room. But you're absolutely right. The unit economics, if you have the footfall and the demand, or there's a conference in town, or there's some reason you could rent it out more fractionally, if not by the hour, but by the day, by the week, we are seeing a huge premium on that. I think fractional offices, when we did the deep dive into that, in the UK, they were seeing a 30% premium on office rentals by splitting it between 2 teams instead of renting it to one. Yes, there's more headaches, but if you systemize it and you get your ducks in a row, that's 30% more straight to the bottom line, right? It's a great way to think about it. Alex, you have given us so much to think about. I appreciate you spending time with us this morning. I appreciate you guys supporting the newsletter and for your trust over at my day job at Syncaroo. I look forward to seeing you again in person as soon as we can. I believe you're going to be over in Atlanta for GWA, is that correct?
Yes, I'll be there.
Perfect. So anyone who wants to catch up and give Alex a high five at the GWA immersive event, go give him a high five, say that Twix sent you. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.